Hey, what's going on? Dr. Ben Glass with the BecomeAChiro.com pre-Chiro podcast. And I'm super excited today because I've got a gentleman here with me, a young Chiro in training who I consider to be one of the first original OG pre-Chiro advocates on YouTube, on the internet, who's obviously got a passion about chiropractic, wants to share it. So, Stephen, thank you so much for being on this show with me today. If you could just start off by sharing a little bit about your chiropractic story and what led you to chiropractic school.
Yeah, Dr. Benoit, first of all, appreciate you having me on. This is great. Man, this journey of me becoming a chiropractor, it can be a long, drawn-out story like I know it is for most of us, right? But I always say that for me, it wasn't like I found chiropractic. It was more that chiropractic found me. And I heard some chiropractors, remember I was at my orientation here at Life U, they said that, and I was like, man, that's so true. So my story really started back high school athlete. I was really big into football. The only thing I really saw in my future was playing college football. And then after that, who knows what, I just was obsessed with football and was getting a few offers coming in my senior year to play. A couple D2 schools, was trying to go D1, ended up tearing my ACL, and that kind of crushed the whole football dream for me. And so hit kind of like a depression, really took a hit with my health. Wasn't doing the rehab the way that I should have. Remember the physical therapist I was going to looked me dead in the eye and he was like, Stephen, if you don't start putting in work into rehab, then you're never going to recover fully. And he scared the crap out of me. And so I really started to say, you know what, enough's enough. I'm going to start being a victim in my life and start taking action. And so really just made an effort to better my health, not just with my rehab with my knee, but like whole body health, and just started getting really, really into not just health and fitness like I was in football, but really just everything that I could possibly do to transform my health. And so how this goes in with chiropractic is completely transformed my career path. I was planning on going to study business at West Virginia University. Ended up changing to an exercise physiology major with the intention of, hey, like I want to do something in healthcare. If I can be a physical therapist or some kind of doctor, I want to do it and really inspire people to better their health and the amazing ability for the body to heal naturally. That was like my main thing, which is like the chiropractic philosophy, but I didn't even know it yet because I haven't been exposed to chiropractic. And so I was looking at what the best thing to do. I was shadowing all these different doctors. The physical therapist, I love that kind of route, but I didn't like how they're kind of just rehab, and I wanted more than just rehab. I went to the chiropractor that I had shadowed initially, and it was all just about back pain and adjusting. And I was like, man, I don't want to just deal with people's back pain all day. Like, that's great stuff, but I want more. And so I was shadowing a naturopath, actually, and he had told me and I love naturopathic. It was so awesome to like study and learn that stuff. And he had told me to go into med school because it had the broadest scope and you won't get laughed at. So I was like, all right, I'm bought in. So freshman year of college, was going to go to med school. Long story short, ended up becoming like the vice president of the pre-med club there on campus, took the MCAT, was like all bought in. About my junior year of college, long story short, I ended up getting a flare-up of spastic torticollis. And so my mom recommended me to go to the chiropractor. There's this new chiropractor in town. So heard great things about him. You should go visit him. She's like, oh, okay, fine. I'll go visit him. Went, obviously, he adjusted me about 2 to 3 visits in. Torticollis was completely gone. I thought it was absolutely incredible. Never seen anything like that before. But then we had a chance to kind of talk. I went during his down hours and he started asking me questions about my future. And I kind of told him the summary up to this point. I was considering med school, but was kind of iffy about it, and even so I was kind of like already bought into it. But he started to educate me about the chiropractic philosophy. He started educating me about the nervous system and was really amazed by it. And so that really planted the seed about that sophomore and a junior year. Wasn't fully committed yet, but it planted a big seed. And sometime into my junior year, I had this moment where I was like, man, I'm planning on going to med school, but I do not want to give people medication. I have zero interest in giving out medicine. Like, I want to show people and educate people that the body can heal naturally. And yet I'm going to this program where that's all I'm going to learn about is drugs and surgery. And I'm like, what am I doing? So I had to sit down with my parents, and my dad told me, he's like, Steve, this isn't the route for you. Just don't do it. And I was like, wait, I don't have to go through with this. And so had that moment of like, you know what, it became clear to me that, wow, I think I need to go an alternative route. And that's when I went back to that chiropractor, talked to him some more, and like pretty much was bought in at that point going forward. And yeah,
Wow.
that was, the rest was kind of history. I know
I
it's
want
kind
to
of
unpack a
version,
couple
but
things for the students that are watching here right now.
yeah.
First off, you were heavily involved in the pre-med club. That's obviously because that is the shiny object, so to speak, for college students. It's the most sought after acceptance that you can get. It tells people that you're the highest quality student, which is what people value. Second thing is you had supportive parents. You had a parent who said, oh, you don't want to go to medical school? Well, you don't have to go to medical school. So many people watching this feel pressured by their parents to go in the medical route. Third thing is that you were told by a naturopath, if you want to not get laughed at, you should go this route. And it's not specifically naturopaths, but so many different healthcare providers admire the respect that doctors get, and they don't realize the paradigm that these doctors are playing in causes burnout, causes a lot of stress and anxiety. They're under these fluorescent lights in the middle of a hospital at 4 a.m. It's an extremely difficult path to take. It's a very long path. Obviously, it's rewarding. You get to save lives in medicine, but it's not that path that you take if you're a personal trainer, a massage therapist, a yoga teacher, a college athlete, and you want to make a difference in someone's lives through improving their healing process and teaching them to go a little bit beyond what they think they know, and expanding their context just a little bit beyond what they currently are aware of. So as a chiropractor addressing neurological function through vertebral subluxation, you know, one of the most often forgotten neurological interferences and stresses to the body that people are not thinking of, not talking about. Can you speak a little bit about why you're so inspired now that you are in chiropractic school and you had this long path that landed you in chiropractic school eventually, but obviously if you would have heard about pre-chiro earlier on in your path, how it could have maybe changed things, and why you're so inspired to be a pre-chiro advocate today?
There's a couple big reasons about what really inspires me. The first thing, and I should have mentioned this earlier, Dr. Ben, was whenever I was in high school, you know, going through football, I was in and out of a chiropractor's office. You know, I was dealing with a lot of back flares up. I had a lot of like shoulder issues and stuff just from playing football, and the thing with that chiropractor, and I'm not going to try to rag him or anything, because I know he's a great guy and he does good care, but it was all about back pain, and there was no education process. There was no day one, no real report of findings, a little bit, but it was pretty vague and just straight to the point. All right, let's get started. And it was just basically, all right, come in for a few visits. Once the back's flared up, you're good to go. And then come back in whenever it comes back again. And knowing what I know now, I'm like, that's not what was best for me and my spine. That wasn't best for my health. And more so, I wasn't educated on what chiropractic truly was. You know, so I didn't understand it, and therefore I couldn't educate other people about it. And I never got it. I never got the principle and what this thing is really all about.
Right.
And so, you know, then whenever I met this new chiropractor, once he educated me on chiropractic, I was like, wow, why didn't I know this earlier? And I feel that's something that a lot of people will say is like, why didn't I know about this earlier if I only knew? And so that's why where I'm at now in my position, I realized like, wow, what a big influence this could have had on myself early on in my life going through school, had I have known and had I been properly educated about it. And so that's really what inspired me. And whenever I was looking into the schooling process, like most students, you're looking up on websites, trying to learn about chiropractic school. I was researching all the different chiropractic schools. And besides all the information that's put out by the schools, there's nothing out there at the time whenever I was looking at school. And now it's kind of changing, which I'm loving. And so I was like, wow, there's next to nothing out there on the chiropractic school process and what it's like. Even though I was already committed and I knew I was going to do this thing, I was like, wow, I need to share my experience and share my journey with others so that way they can learn about school and potentially I can affect and transform someone's life. And I've already met students here at school who, it's not me, but it's just, you know, I saw a need and I fixed it. But, you know, where they're like, I was debating chiropractic school or dentistry, and watching your videos, like it committed me on chiropractic, you know, and just, I hear these stories and testimonies and I realize that, wow, like this makes a difference of just educating people on what chiropractic is. And I think it's our due diligence, because after all, the word doctor means teacher. And so I believe it's our responsibility to properly teach and educate the world.
Thank you for having that insight. I had the same insight. I kind of came in the back door. I was planning to become a physical therapist or a physician's assistant. I was volunteering, getting on my experiential learning hours. Chiropractic never really popped up on my screen as an option, a legitimate option. So here I am, 8 years into practice, about 12 years later after graduating college, and I couldn't be more happy with the path that I chose. And it's my goal with this channel to really illustrate that I'm going to be talking to people that had a great experience, that didn't have a great experience. I want to be fully transparent about the educational experience that students have. And can you talk a little bit about your student experience, specifically some of the paths that you've been attracted to, and what the experience has been like since you've been in, and where are you at in the program?
Sure thing. So right now, I go to Life University, the school I attend to. I just finished my 9th quarter of school, so heading into 10th quarter. So that's out of 14 quarters. So I'm kind of nearing the end. Got about another little over a year left. And so my process coming to school, man, where do I begin? So again, I already had the intuition that I was going to document the schooling process in some form or fashion. And I really wanted to do so just to show people my experience, at least so that way I could leave a trail for others to follow. And I didn't really know how that was going to manifest, but I just trusted the process that it was going to work out. And so really starting first quarter, that's why I started my YouTube channel. I started making videos, really just documenting the process. It started out with just simple vlogs where I was just kind of sharing my journey, because as I'm learning and going through it, other people can experience it and learn from it as well. But I had met a really good now friend of mine at the time. Whenever I was coming in orientation, he was one of the student orientation leaders. And I remember he had told me, I really liked this guy and really looked up to him. He was an upper quarter student, and I could just tell he had it together, the way he dressed, the way he talked, the way he carried himself. And I knew I wanted to learn from him. And so in conversing with him, he had told me the importance of getting involved in clubs on campus, and that it's really influential, not just to learn the material in the classroom, but to really educate and grow yourself in clubs and organizations. Because in the school, no matter how great the school is, every school has the same mission in mind, and that's to prepare you to pass your boards and get you a degree. They're not training you on how to become a successful chiropractor, not training on how to run a business, not training you on how to be a great adjuster or amazing at your technique. And so that's just the reality of it, and with all the schools. And so you have to use these clubs and organizations as a way to get that extra little bit of experience under your belt. And so he had recommended to me to join a business club or a public speaking club to practice your business and communication skills, and a technique club as soon as you can off the bat, and commit to at least one club whenever you first come into school. And then if you like it, great. But if not, kind of just play around, flirt around, date with different clubs and see which ones you like, and then start to commit and kind of find your narrow path. And so that's kind of how it happened with me. Yeah. And whenever I came first quarter, I got involved with at our school at LifeView, they have a club day. And so, all the different clubs set up their little booths. You can walk around and they, learn a little bit about the clubs and stuff. And so that first about week or two in my first quarter, I went to a few technique clubs, went to a couple of business clubs. And then I just picked which ones, I narrowed it down to about 3 or 4 clubs. And then I started kind of going to all of them. And then by the end of the first quarter, I kind of had the techniques and the business that kind of, that I felt was going to be best suited for me. So
interesting. Yeah, it was a little different for me. I basically took a while to figure out what was going to be the path that I wanted to choose. There's so many options in chiropractic. For prospective students, you have no idea that there's more than 20, if not more than 100 different paths that you can take within the umbrella of becoming a doctor of chiropractic. Can you speak to the transition of going into school? How hard was it for you to uproot yourself, move to a new town, get settled, wrap your mind around this new schedule, which is graduate education? Can you talk about the difference between sort of the undergraduate experience and the graduate experience for people who are really just looking at this profession trying to figure out, is this something that's legitimate? Is it something that they're going to be challenged by? Because I believe a lot of pre-med students just want the challenge. They want to be able to say, I overcame a really rigorous program academically. I also would like you to elaborate a little bit more on that supplemental curriculum that you're talking about and what you're currently working on outside of the classroom.
Sure. So with the first thing, with the transition from, I guess, your undergraduate into the graduate, specifically the chiropractic school program, usually the schools, I think the hardest thing probably in the transition is just the speed of the program itself. So in undergrad, we're used to the semester-based system. And then in chiropractic school, most of the schools are either on a quarter system. So there's 4 different terms a year, or a tri where there's 3. And so, you know, at Life, we do a quarter-based system. And so there's 10 weeks of classes, 1 week of finals, so 11 weeks total. And you're combining roughly close to anywhere between 24 to 30 credits within that 10-week period. And so you're looking at basically double the amount of classes in a shorter period of time. Now, when I first heard that, it scared the crap out of me, because I was like, how am I going to pull that off? I thought I was busy in college, and they're telling me I'm going to have double the classes.
Yeah.
And so, but don't let that fear tempt you, because clearly you can definitely do it and rise to the challenge. The only thing that I say, given it is a graduate program, and so the classes are taking up a next level, but the thing I always tell people is, so are you. You're also growing and getting smarter in the process. I mean, I never thought, you know, the transition from going from high school to college, you're always nervous because you're like, man, it's college. It's college now. It's going to be so hard. But yet you rose up and you did it because you learn and grow and mature. And I think it's the same time as well with this process of with chiropractic school, as you'll grow as well through the program. And I think most schools do a good job in that transition. And so I really think the main thing with any school program, even in undergrad, the biggest thing that I think students need to build up is time management and discipline. I think if you can work on that now, no matter where you're at in your school, I mean, I think it's a lifelong journey to build up your time management and discipline skills, but just try your best to really work at that, because that's really the game, more so, I think, than the difficulty of the classes. It's more about how well you can manage your time. And I believe that if you can manage your time well and be disciplined in your schoolwork and balancing everything else out in your life through school, you're going to do fine. And so
no doubt. I'll put the stamp on that. I like that. I like that advice. I think that balancing what you spend time on can be like a more finer detail within that umbrella of time management. But continue on, my friend. This is really valuable stuff. I mean, just imagine we're speaking to high school students. We're speaking to people that are transitioning into this career. Speak to how you managed your time as a young Chiro student, and now how you're managing your time as somebody who's kind of reprioritized your needs.
Sure. And we could do a whole episode, a whole series on time management, honestly. But in the main umbrella, I think the biggest thing is you got to get a schedule, got to get a calendar, and fill out all your classes. I think that's the main thing. And especially in chiropractic school, you have so many different classes. You got to balance all of that. And so just getting a calendar with all of your classes on there. And I know now we're doing like this hybrid, a lot of online classes. So it's a little bit different with that. But just in the mainstay, you know, with normal classes, we're on campus. Balancing out the class times is the first thing. And then I like to then think about when you're going to do, you know, I use something called time blocking. So you basically have different hours of the day where you're blocking your times out. And so I'll use Google Calendar, and I will just then have hours of the day that I'm going to work on getting my schoolwork done, you know, hours of the day where I'm going to be in classes, you know, then I'll plan out stuff like when I'm going to be in the gym, when I'm going to do things like meal prep. Then I balance like clubs I'm going to. I'll even balance like when I'm going to clean my apartment, just do like normal errands and stuff, because I got to schedule that stuff in too, you know? So really just time block all the important stuff and kind of just layer it down and then put it in your calendar. Just that way you have that time blocked off for yourself, so you know what you're going to be doing at what time of the day. And you'll kind of figure out when the best time you like to study, when the best time you like to get assignments done, when you like going to the gym. You'll kind of start to figure all that stuff out for yourself. And then I think the second thing you need to do is keep some kind of like an assignment tracker, or like a task management tracker, where you basically put all of your assignments, all of your quizzes, exams and stuff onto a sheet which you can track. And so for that, I like to use an app called Todoist, not to-do list, but without the L, so Todoist. And that's pretty good because I can kind of create folders in there with all my classes, and I'll put in at the start of the quarter all the different, when the exams are for every class, when certain assignments are due, when quizzes are. I'll put all of that stuff in with the due dates attached, so I already know when all my assignments are due, so I stay on track of everything. And then that way you can kind of prioritize what's most important right now. And then, every day, every week, I spend some time at the beginning of the week and kind of just plan out my week for what work I need to get done in that time, and just making, I kind of move stuff around on my time blocks as such, giving myself that wiggle room there if I need more time to study or more time to get stuff done, or if I have anything else going on that might require, that's out of the ordinary, I can kind of fill that stuff out through the week. And then from there,
if you were to break down a percentage of how much time you're spending on the curriculum and passing your classes, doing well in your classes and getting ready for boards, and then how much time you're spending outside of the classroom, developing your skill set, becoming a better communicator, a better adjuster, developing your understanding of the science, and developing your skill set in regards to entrepreneurship, how would you break down the percentage you're implementing? And then give a possibility of what another student might look like, some of your peers, and also what you recommend, which you might not be doing, but that you're recommending, because there's always a little bit greater expression that we could be doing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what my current kind of schedule looks like is, again, now it's online classes. So it's a little bit, I actually like it better because I can really knock out my schoolwork done whenever I want. So I do that stuff early in the morning and I'm already done with my school. So I have a second half of my day to get other stuff done. So it's been really nice. But I think starting out, I think it's important. I think start small. You don't want to burn yourself out too early. That's what I think. I kind of did that myself, where I felt I got way too involved and I had to bounce back. But in the same instance, I think it was good that I tested that boundary of like where my burnout is. So I think that is
too involved with what?
With school and with clubs, right? And so I was getting involved in a lot of different clubs, but so really just going like practicing every single day. I was, with my technique, I was meeting up with, and I'm not saying this is a bad thing. I think it got me where I'm at now. So I'm grateful for it. But, practicing every night with students, I would really try to orchestrate, we had the club I was going to, I went to the Gansei Club. That's the club I'm involved with now. We met Tuesday nights. And so on Monday night, I would meet with a small group of people and we would start reviewing stuff that we're going to go over for the next week or for that night in club. And then, we'd practice maybe 2 or 3 other nights throughout the week, just getting some extra reps in. And so things like that, I think that really helped mold me into becoming prepared to get into the clinic system. But yeah, I would recommend, I think if you can get involved in just a solid technique club and just start learning the basics, I think the most important thing with getting involved in something like a technique club is you want to start with something that's more foundational. That's what drew me into Gansei at first, was it's a foundational technique. And a lot of the stuff in the technique is spread throughout the curriculum as well. So I knew that learning the Gansei technique, because it's a full spine technique, it was going to prepare me for the clinic, because in the clinic we do full spine. So it was basically the same thing kind of coming together. So I was like, well, the bare minimum, even if I don't stick with Gansei long term, I knew it was going to prepare me well for school and through clinic and make me a better chiropractor starting out. So I got involved with that. And I think the club too kind of took care of like the building process. They do a tier-based system. So it wasn't like I was being taught stuff way over my head. But just really feeding that. And I think my real advice though with students is to not neglect that stuff. I think really, in my opinion, I believe that extra, curriculum that you build for yourself outside of the classroom is just as important as your schoolwork, if not more important, really. But you got to value your school because you got to get through school. But I believe even starting out, really understand that it's like the same importance, that this place that importance on yourself, like going and practice your technique or showing up to club, is just as important as showing up to your class. And that's something I tell younger students now in school, is like, whenever they come to club, I'm like, okay, I want you guys to commit to club this quarter and treat it like it is a class. We meet from 6:30 to 8. And so from 6:30 to 8, you're not going to miss your class. So I don't want you to miss club. And so a lot of times in the younger quarters, we can amplify the difficulty of school in the moment. And we can amplify, we can say, oh, I have all these exams and all this stuff going on, I got to caught up on. And then what starts to slide is the stuff we're learning outside of school, the technique, the business, the communication, even stuff with your own personal health is all, it kind of goes out the window and you're focused on classes. But you got to realize it's not really benefiting you as a person in the long term. It's not really going to benefit you as a chiropractor in the long term. And that stuff, quarter after quarter, semester, term, try after try, that's going to start to build up. And you think in the beginning, like, I'm just going to stay and study, I'm not going to go to that technique club. Well, you do that quarter after quarter after quarter. Next thing you know, you're in clinic. Next thing you know, you're out doing your preceptorship. Now you're graduating and you're like, I don't know any, I'm inexperienced. And I feel that happens to a lot of chiropractors. And so I think really just committing it, that it's a part of your education, a part of your growth.
Definitely. How has being so committed to that outside of the classroom work benefited you in your clinical experience? I know that you've just transitioned into the student clinic. How has life been different for you as a new student doctor in training, obviously, but taking care of people? How is all the work you've put in up until now really benefiting you right now?
I mean, it's been awesome. It's been really amazing to go through the clinic. And so I just finished my student clinic, so I'll actually be heading in the outpatient clinic next quarter. But I think, once you get to that point of being in clinic, which is going to happen sooner, you'll be surprised at how fast the program goes by. But once you start getting in those upper level technique classes, or once you get into the clinic system, you don't want to be in a state, now given you're always going to be learning, but you don't want to be in a state where you're learning your technique then. You want to get to the point where you're starting to refine and start to build that experience. And so, at LifeU, we have, our full spine classes, full spine 1, full spine 2, full spine 3, and then you get in the clinic right after there. So you have 3 adjusting classes. You only get to adjust in the 1 in full spine 3. So the other 2, it's just like practicing setup. So you get 1 quarter of setting up on. You might get at best, because you only start halfway through the quarter. So I think you get something like 5, maybe 6, I think like 5 adjustments in on a student on one segment of the spine. And so if that's your first time really getting your hands on and really practicing your technique and even adjusting someone, by the time you get into the student clinic, you're not ready. You're just not ready yet. And so I think once you get into those full spine classes, that's when you should be refining your skills, not learning and getting your experience. And so I think getting that experience in early on and, within your first year of school, having that strong foundation in your analysis and skills there.
Or just because this is what the podcast is all about, before school.
Exactly. That is very true. That actually is something that I've been talking to a lot of students who are seeing what I'm talking about. Now they're in undergrad. I have someone in high school ask me questions. I'm like, this is amazing. And I think absolutely, it's such a big point. Do start to learn this stuff even early on in school. The earlier, the better, really, honestly, and let it evolve over time. So that way, because I agree with that. Even you show up in club, but you already have a basic understanding of a lot of the stuff you're already learning. And then now it's just creating that repetition for yourself versus the first time hearing it. It takes a lot more time versus if you're just like, oh yeah, reviewing the stuff, getting more experience, getting hands-on, it's only going to save you. And I think once you get into those upper technique classes, once you get in the clinic, now it's all about, you're not learning the stuff, you're confident in your skills and your abilities, and you can actually focus on getting people well. And that's such an amazing thing, And so I think the skills you learn early on will pay off later. And I think for me, at least, it's starting to kind of show, given there's still so much more that I need to learn, but being in clinic, it's been, I think the work that I put in early on in school is starting to show. And it's so worth it,
You got to put in the work. Absolutely. Yeah. It can look so many different ways. They don't have to take the exact path that you took to get there, but they have to be on a parallel path that you were on, where they're valuing that supplemental time that they spend outside of the classroom with their students that are in the class with them, but then they actually have accountability partners, or they have mentors that they meet with outside of the class. And that's what we're trying to create, is a supportive infrastructure so that every chiropractic student feels like they were fully supported in their pre-chiro experience. and that translates into them feeling experienced and exposed to what they need to be successful in their Chiro student experience, right? My premise is there's 5 stages, 5 whole stages of pre-Chiro, and the 5th stage is the admissions process. There's 4 stages that people are passing up or missing out on, that if they understood, if they had context and structure, that they would be showing up to chiropractic school already knowing about the clubs available to them, already having been exposed to the sciences that are unique to the different techniques or that are unique to chiropractic, because the chiro sciences are different from the medical sciences, right? Can you speak a little bit about the communication that you're currently having with people that you're going to be taking care of in the outpatient clinic, but also your fellow student patient that you just took care of? Or maybe you don't want to call them a patient, but regardless, how do you communicate chiropractic to the people that you're taking care of?
Right. So communication, again, it's so vital. It's so vital. I mean, you talked about, just in my experience alone with different chiropractors, what made it or broke it for me was the communication with the chiro. And that's really what ultimately led me here. And so the communication stuff is important, first and foremost. And I think just as we practice our technique, just like you practice the science and the books and the classes, you got to practice the communication skills for yourself as well, and putting yourself in positions to be able to practice your communication and communicating chiropractic and doing it well, because people are receptive to how we communicate. And I like to keep it simple, in my communication. And I even in the student clinic, I was always doing some bit of education every single time, always doing a little bit of education. But my real simple explanation of what chiropractic is and what we do, and I guess like a 30 seconds to like a minute window, is, I would say something like this. Say, so Dr. Ben, you got basically in chiropractic, a lot of people think that it's just for neck and back pain, but the reality is it's so much more than that. And you see, really, chiropractors were interested in your back, in your aches and pains and dysfunctions, but we're really more interested in the overall function and health of your nervous system. So what I mean by that is, you have your brain that sits on top of your skull here, and you have your spine. And so down every single layer of your spine extends your spinal cord. Okay. And so the spinal cord forms all of your nerves that come out at every single level. And those nerves are so important because they go to every single muscle, tissue, organ in your entire human body. And so without our nerves, we really wouldn't have a communication between the brain and the body. And so the nerves is what connects the two. And so what can happen is, whenever we get normal everyday stress, or we have slips, falls, it puts stress on our spine. And what can happen is, just like any other joint in our body, it can cause a little bit of a slip in that joint in the spine. So whenever that happens, you get wear and tear, inflammation at that level. And the inflammation can put irritation on that nerve exiting out of the spine. And so in science, we call this a vertebral subluxation, which is basically subluxation, so less than a dislocation of the spine. And it irritates that nerve. And so think of, just like, whenever that happens, that nerve cannot communicate the way that it's supposed to. Okay, simple explanation is, if we hit our funny bone, what happens is our arm and our hand goes numb. We don't have that normal sensation because the nerve isn't functioning properly because we had irritation to it. Or vice versa, if we slept on our side of our shoulder, what happens? Our arm went numb because we're irritating that nerve. It's the same thing in the spine, but the problem is we don't necessarily even sense the spine. 90% of subluxations don't even produce symptoms. And so we may have irritation to that nerve and not even know it. And it can be going on for 10, 20, 30 years. And we're not getting that adequate nerve supply to different parts of our body, especially your vital organs. And so not only can we show up in aches and pains, which is the reason why you're here in our office today, that can be irritating nerves to different parts of your body that can be causing all sorts of dysfunctions. So what we're interested in chiropractic is looking at exactly where that bone is misaligned, creating that inflammation on the nerve, and using specific and gentle adjustments to restore that alignment in the joint, allowing that body to naturally heal out that inflammation, releasing that pressure on the nerve, and allowing your body to function the way that it's intended. So it's simple as that. And I know I kind of drew it out long because I want to put a few different points in together. I can make it even simpler than that, but just having little bits of information, educating people is really, really important.
So do you think college students should really strongly consider the chiropractic path if what that message was that you just shared with them resonates with them?
100%. And you should feed that process 100%. If you're really interested. I think nowadays in what's going on in the world, I think people are realizing that it's not about what's, science and what medicine can do for us, but it's rather what can our bodies do to heal naturally and function optimally. And so it's really about, we understand what health truly is about. And if you're interested in wanting to help people get healthier and promote the natural health message, I think chiropractic is an amazing, amazing thing to get into. And I always say too, learn more. I mentioned too, Dr. Ben, I was involved with the pre-med club, and I think the pre-chiropractic is something that needs to get spread louder so students can get exposed to the chiropractic curriculum and get exposed to the chiropractic world and learn more about it. I had connections in medical world. I already met people from different medical colleges in the admissions panel. I had different mentors and colleagues that are writing me letters of recommendation. Like, to have that in chiropractic will be a beautiful, beautiful thing. And like you had mentioned earlier, get students interested in, for people that are committed, already learning the basics and fundamentals. So that way they're coming in with already that backbone, foundational knowledge and experience. That way they can just get started and chase their dreams and become the best chiropractor they can.
Right on, brother. Yeah, I believe that our profession has the potential to come together through shared experience. And I think there's no better time for that to happen than before they arrive. And so I just want to thank you for your insights today. Thanks for sharing. It was a clean, crisp, pure message. Any student that's in college that hears this interview is going to gain a lot of valuable, detailed insights into the mind of a chiropractic student. I didn't share too much, but just know that I'm happy I'm doing this because I'm happy after 8 years in practice. And I didn't come from a chiropractic family. I came from a medical family. I was considering everything but chiropractic. And I just want every college student, anyone who's transitioning careers, to know that this is the profession of choice if you're looking to make an impact on someone's health, well-being, and natural healing process. So thank you, Stephen. Any final words on what's going on with you? If you have anything coming up that you want people to know is taking place in your world?
100%. So heading to the outpatient clinic, like I said, and so it's been so exciting to be able to see real patients out in the real world. I'm always here as a light. If any student watching this has any more questions or wants to reach out to me, I'm always available. I love talking with students and answering questions or just giving feedback. Or if you just want to chat, have a conversation, I'd love to have that with you. So feel free to get in touch with me. I have a YouTube channel you can watch. If you haven't seen it already, you can just look me up at Stephen Gage or just type in chiropractic school. You'll probably find me on there. And just get in contact with me. Really, honestly, I'm willing to help any students as much as possible and really get you going on that process.
We're definitely going to try and provide you with more opportunities for that. I'm with that, and I want to definitely give you the chance to directly impact students if that's what you're into, if that's what you're passionate about. We want to make that opportunity available because I believe Chiro students are the best mentors for the pre-Chiro students, right? You're
100%.
in it.
100%.
All right, no doubt. Yo, have a great day. Appreciate you. Good luck in clinic. Do your thing. Keep shining that light for these future students, man. It's important work you're doing. No doubt.
I appreciate it, Dr. Ben. You're doing amazing things as well. Keep it up.
No doubt. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. So